all together. Well, there might be a few people who've got it all together in this world. There just might be. But the vast majority of us, it seems like we are just tossed around by the waves of an ocean. There's no rudder on our boat. So we have to ask ourselves, are we going to be in control of our lives? Are we going to go out in front? Are we going to say, Jesus, okay, just you tag along with me, and when I need help, then you kind of support me? Or are we going to let the one who always was and always will be, the one who's never too busy, the one who's never too bored, the one who's never too burdened, to be the shepherd who goes out in front of us and be the one present in our lives every single day? See, the relationship with Christ is about time. It's about 24/7. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, He's there. Why not let Him be your shepherd and guide you in what you do? It's not only a relationship of time, it's a relationship of truthfulness. I guess sheep without a shepherd are absolutely lost. They don't know what to do, and they get into all sorts of trouble. Well, the shepherd, because he spends so much time with them, he knows them. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I guess that in the morning, what would happen is the shepherds from all over would bring their flocks into the sheep pen. So you'd have maybe, 10, 15 flocks. And they're all mixed up. And what would happen is that in the morning time, the shepherd would come and he would call out his sheep by name. And the sheep would make their way through. Now, that's what I read, and I read it in several places. If somebody knows better, correct me, because I've been saying this for a long time. But it's a beautiful picture, isn't it? These sheep know the shepherd's voice. And if somebody calls their name, but it isn't the shepherd, they run away. It's kind of like the one time I had a Halloween mask, and I came in and I put it on. The dog's always at the front door. And I put the mask on, and I went like that. The poor dog almost rolled over. Who's this? But then he heard my voice, and it was okay. But that's how the sheep know the shepherd. Isn't that beautiful? And the shepherd knows his sheep. God knows him through and through. What does Psalm 139 say? It says that before we even speak, God knows what we're going to say. That we can take a spaceship to Mars, and He's still there. We can go as many thousand feet underneath the sea that we can get, and He is still there. God doesn't need us to be truthful with Him so that He finds out about us. He knows about it all. It's kind of like Adam and Eve. When Adam and Eve sinned, and they disobeyed God, did God really need to find out what had happened? It's kind of funny. Don't you kind of laugh thinking, they hide from God? And they think that they can make clothes so that He can't see them. And this is God. We laugh at them. But yet, how often don't we do that? How often don't we block God out of our lives and we're not truthful with Him? That age-old illustration of the rooms of a house as the rooms of our lives is so good. Lord, I'll let you into the guest room. Lord, I'll let you into the dining room. I even like to eat with you. Lord, I might invite you into my entertainment room, but don't come into my bedroom. Don't come into my recreation room. Don't come into my basement. Now, does God know what we're doing in all the different areas of our life? Does He know what's going on in the rooms of our lives, even if we close the door and lock them? Well, certainly He knows. The point is not that He's got to find out. The point is we've got to open Him up so that He can begin to work in us. Now, the biggest deception in the world is that we can handle sin. It doesn't matter what kind of sin it is. We call it big public sin or just a little bit of sin. We think we can handle it. Somebody once said, the moment you say to yourself, I have no problem with this, I can stop it at any time I want, that's why I'm going to keep doing it, that's a sign we can't handle it. And how often don't we get into that edgy type of stuff? And we say, it's okay, I can handle it. There is nothing that we can handle. Not when it comes to sin. Not when it comes to pride. What does pride do? Pride leads us to think we can do things we can't. And then the fear creeps in. And that is what's so brutal about it. Our pride leads us to think we can do all these things that we can't do, and then the fear comes, and it leads us to not do what we should be doing. What is fear? What kind of fear do we deal with? We deal with fear of failure. We deal with fear of what other people are going to think of us. We deal with fear of, if I change my life, what's going to happen? And God's saying, go out, step out, step out. But then our pride says, well, I can do this without God. I can do that without God. I don't need to obey Him in this area of our lives. The sheep, they didn't have any secrets. They didn't have any secrets from their shepherd. He knew exactly who was going to stray. He knew who the troublemakers were, and he knew who he could leave off a little bit by himself while he took care of the others. He knows. He knows everything about us. Let's open ourselves up to Him so He can work in us. The last thing is that He is trustworthy. The sheep followed the shepherd. When they heard His voice, they went out, and then they stopped at the entrance, and then they waited for Him to get around, and they followed Him. Why? Because they knew. They knew that they would get lost. They knew that they would never get to the place they needed to be without Him. That was not a blind trust, was it? It was based on the fact that over and over and over again, the shepherd had led them exactly to the right place. Jesus Christ invites you and me to put our trust in Him. And you got to ask yourself, is He trustworthy? Is He trustworthy? And we talked about the rule keeping. I got to do this and I got to do that, and I can't do the other things that I like to do. And we sometimes look at our walk with the Lord as a tremendous sacrifice, don't we? I got to do it. I got to do it so I can be a father. That's what Lent, that's why Lent is so important. Because what does it do? It focuses on the cross. And it reminds us what happened on that cross. And that's what Christianity is all about. If we miss that, then we fall into the same trap as those people that persecuted Jesus. The minute we understand, we begin to understand what He did to give us the opportunity to live with Him forever, the God becomes alive. But it's not only for eternity that He calls us to follow Him, it's also in everyday life. Everyday living. And that's also a matter of faith. Because we live in a world that says what? You have got to take care of yourself, right? If you don't look out for yourself, nobody will. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And then Jesus comes along and He says things like, turn the other cheek. He says, go the extra mile. He says, blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the meek. And you say, Jesus, you don't live in the world that we live in. What do you mean? He went before Pontius Pilate. Are we going to trust Him? Are we going to follow Him? Or are we going to fall into the same pattern that everybody's following? Just look out for number one and watch out. Kind of interesting, in the summer of the Israeli year, it gets very, very dry. And so the streams dry up, the pasture lands diminish. And so the shepherd's got to take his sheep a long way sometimes through some pretty difficult terrain to get them where they need to be. And you can probably imagine those lazy sheep sometimes thought, what is he doing to us? He's going to kill us before we get to the quiet waters. You always got there. Are you in a time in your life where you might be asking God, I'm obeying you. I am turning the other cheek. I'm doing the things you call me to do. And it just doesn't seem to be working out. Are you going to trust Him enough to get through the valleys so that He can take you to the mountaintop, to the pastures? Let's talk about what His commitment is to the relationship. We've talked a little bit about our commitment to Him, but that just pales in comparison to His commitment to us. And the first